So should we show our slides? All right. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Happy Earth Day 2022.
And welcome to the Sandia National Laboratory's National Solar Thermal Test Facility. My name is Kenneth Armijo.
My name is Jessica Krushak.
And we're scientists here at Sandia, and we're going to share with you some little bit of research that we do in solar energy and chemistry, and maybe even talk a little bit about ourselves and the work that we do here at the labs. So without ado, I think I'm sharing my screen. So I'm going to bring this up. There you go. Can you all see our slides? All right. So introduction of who we are. So Jessica.
All right. Hi again. I'm Jessica Krushak. I'm a chemist here at Sandia. I got my bachelor's here at the University of New Mexico, here in New Mexico, and then I got my master's in chemistry. I've been working here at Sandia for about 12 years now. I started as a student intern and just kind of stayed here. I work in nuclear waste disposal. So, you know, nuclear energy is a clean energy, but now I'm trying to figure out what do we do with that waste. So what about you, Kenny?
So I am a solar energy scientist, and we're going to talk a little bit about climate change and climate security and the work we do here in solar energy. Although today is a windy day, so wind energy might actually be an appropriate thing for us to talk about. We're going to talk about solar because it is a clear day. And so I was an intern like Jessica at the labs. I went from high school being actually a farmer and then going into solar energy later on. I also did a little bit of work in this place called NASA, where I worked on space shuttles. And so I went from outer space to solar space. So just that's a little bit about who we are and a little bit of context for what we are going to talk about. So I'm going to bring up another presentation real quick. So can you see my slides here? Perfect. So as I mentioned, I grew up as a farm kid in a small farm in New Mexico. We raised chili peppers. In New Mexico and the Southwest, chili peppers are all the rage here when it comes to food and fine dining. And what I noticed over time, as many folks here in the Western states do, is we are getting less and less water. Our reserves for water are going away. And this is due to climate change and the need for more climate security in order to boost our resources, especially with water, in order to help address major challenges that don't just affect us in terms of just having water, but even how we can produce power, because we need water for producing electricity and many other things. So as we look here, we have groups here at Sandia National Labs that do what's called Global Information Systems, or GIS mapping, where you can take different types of information and overlay them together. By doing that kind of research, we're able to understand problems a little bit better, and more importantly, understand the solutions to address those problems. So as I mentioned, energy and water are inextricably connected. And so it's important that we have water so we can drink that after we go on a nice long run, but it's also important for producing electricity. And the challenges of climate change are only getting more so. As the years progress, our population and the need for more energy continues to grow. And because of that, we see blackouts. We see other challenges with regards to how climate change affects the earth and affects us. We also are seeing that more countries need energy and power. So it's not just enough for us to just turn off the power, but we have to recognize the fact that a lot of places all over the world and people, as they gain higher forms of energy, such as electricity from burning things, they are having a better quality of life. So it's important that we all get access to energy in the interest of equity. But at the same time, we need more resource for energy. And the social implications that of all this need for energy and to address climate change is only getting greater and greater. So we see here the environmental vulnerability index, and we see especially around the equator, more and more folks need to they need help in addressing climate change from floods and dry times and also fires. So just to get an idea of how much raw energy we receive every day from the sun, there's 6 black boxes that you see in this map. If these 6 black boxes were just solar panels galore all over there, you would actually be able to not only make enough power for the entire world's needs of approximately 2.5 terawatts of electricity, each one of them, you would actually be able to produce enough power for the entire decade. There's so much power. So the question really is, how do we distribute all of that solar energy potential to all of the places around the world and how we live our lives? Just showing you in the middle little section here with these power towers, this is concentrating solar power where we reflect light off of mirrors onto a tower that heats up a fluid such as water into steam or molten salts. So imagine your table salt actually as a liquid. That actually is what we use to ultimately turn a generator to make electricity. The figure on the bottom, this one over here, if you see my cursor, are solar PV. You've probably seen these little things on top of people's roofs. These little solar panels, light comes in, electricity goes out. We could thank Albert Einstein for the photoelectric effect discovery he came up with. And because of that, we do all of this exciting research at Sandia National Laboratories. And the potential for solar energy, and I put here New Mexico, but really for the entire United States, as you see in the bottom left, this is what we call a solar potential map or a potential energy map. The dark red areas show where the solar energy is greatest. And in the lighter colors, that shows where solar energy power is actually the lightest. So you don't actually get as much. But what we are trying to do as part of the Department of Energy's initiative is to reduce the cost of electricity for solar. So whenever people want to say, hey, I want to put solar panels on my roof, they're not worried about the cost as much, and it makes it easier. And if that's the case, and we all have warm fuzzies about buying solar power with respect to cost, we'll all put solar power on our roofs, hopefully. So that said, one of the things here in New Mexico that we work with our state, because we're
Hey, sorry folks, looks like we're having a little bandwidth issues on their stream from Sandia.
This is what we call demand.
Oh,
at the end of then we go to work and school and all the power goes down. Then at the end of the day, we come home, we turn everything else back on. We have to cook, we have to turn on our TVs, all sorts of stuff. But the challenge is that the sun is out during the middle of the day. So it's not, it's kind of in between these little 2 camel humps, if you will. So how do we get around that? And we get around that with what we call energy storage. And so by using batteries or molten salts, remember that table salt I was telling you about, we could store all of that thermal energy as we heat it up during the middle portion of the day, and then continuously make electricity from it even after the sun goes down. That is principally the main research we do here at the NSTTF. And this is a picture of a little concentrating solar power plant where we reflect light off of a tower and off of mirrors. You see the light reflecting off of mirrors and on the top of a tower, and into 2 big storage tanks. Those storage tanks is where we store all that thermal energy for up to 16 hours. Those little batteries that you have in your car or you have on your maybe like you can see batteries in other forms like in transportation, like in planes and trains and things like that, or little ones right here for your little RC cars or whatnot, or your phones. They can only store thermal electricity for approximately like 2 to about 5 hours at best. But over time, they degrade. So with these other forms of thermal energy storage, like I was mentioning with salts and even fluidized particles like we use here, we're able to store again for up to 16 hours and produce electricity continuously after that. And this is a picture of what happens from the research we do here at the national labs. We could take it out to the world and work with all sorts of groups all over the world, like in Spain. You see here, we have a picture in Nevada. We have another picture in Australia. And what's cool about this job, and probably Jessica sees the same thing in her work in chemistry, is we get to travel a lot. We get to go and actually help different people make these big systems. So all that cool and information that you learn in school and that you always had dreams about, you get to do that kind of work in labs and really make a difference in this world. So now that you see what concentrating solar power is all about and the heat from the sun, what you can do with it, now we are going to go back to our other slides right here, where I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to talk a little bit about this solar oven that we are going to be putting together today.
Yeah, so today we're going to be building a solar oven. I want to show an actual solar oven that Kenny has here.
Let's see. Hopefully you all can see it. But this right here is one of our solar ovens. You can see all the reflective surfaces that go into this dark area right here. We use a little thermometer to measure the temperature. And by measuring that temperature, we can find out if our food is ready or burnt. And so that's why it's important to do really good engineering design to make sure that you cook your food so it's nice and tasty. Right.
All right. So now, I don't know if you want to.
Cool.
So why we're here today is that I want to show you guys how to make your own solar cooker at home. So it's easy stuff. I have a list of materials here. Hopefully you can do this with me now. We wanted to do it outside, but again, it's like a hurricane out there. It's windy. So we wanted to, so we wanted to, these are the materials we need. So we need a pizza box. This one's from Dion's, our local really yummy pizza place. And then we're gonna need some newspaper for insulation. We have tape. We have scissors, flat construction paper, and we'll get into all of this and how it works. We need aluminum foil, notebook paper, did I say clear plastic wrap? Yeah, a pencil pen, and a ruler. So I have the finished product right here. So this is what it looks like. I'll just go over some of the steps and then you guys can do it at home. So we have the box. Oh, I need to do the other. Oops, other slide. Yeah, okay. So let's just build it. So we have the box, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna just use one of your notebook papers, and you're gonna use it to trace a rectangle, right? A rectangle on the box. So like this. This is hard to do.
Doing great.
Thank you.
As scientists, it's also important to keep encouraging each other to do good work.
Yes. So you're going to make your rectangle with the box. I don't know how much detail we need to go into. All right, so now we have our rectangle. You're going to use your scissors. You're going to go along these edges here, just the three, not this one back here. And you're going to make a flap. So, should I do that?
Or you can just point it out.
Okay. So, you'll see this on my final product. So, you cut your flap, and then you want to, where your line was that we didn't cut, you're going to bend that back. So, you're going to have a nice little crease in the back. Right there, good. If you can see all this. All right. So then, let's see, where were we? Okay, so, and then on this one, since I'm not really gonna go into this one, you're gonna put aluminum foil. You're gonna put it along this edge, the front that's facing the box, and then you're going to tape it on the back end edge. Is that? So you're going to tape it really well here. I would do it pretty tight. You want it a nice surface here, because guess what? This is going to reflect the sun's rays into your box. So then from there, let's see, what do we do next? Yes. Okay.
Or I don't know if you want to talk about the plastic wrap.
Oh yeah. So then so then your box is still working here. You're gonna use your plastic wrap. Here you go. It's hard to work with, so this is a two-man job. So Kenny, I would need your help if we were actually doing this, but because saran wrap's hard to work with. You're gonna tape it in the inner box. Really well. You want it tight. This is what's going to keep all that heat in. And then on the bottom, you're going to put your black construction paper. Okay, what does the black construction paper do? This is for the absorption of the heat. So we want all that heat in here, and then your nice yummy treat is going to go right here on top of that black piece. You also want to put newspaper in on the sides of the box, and this works as an insulation. So again, this is where all of our heat is going to hang out, and it's going to cook our yummy snacks. So once that's all put together, take your time. You could do this on your own time, but you're going to hold it up, and you can use a dowel
or a straw,
whatever works. You could even use tape back here to just tape the flap, but I like the dowel. And then you have your finished product. So there you go. And Kenny, how does this kind of work here with the sun and how the actual cooker works?
Yeah, so funny you should mention that. So when we use this, there we go. So when we use this, we notice that Jessica also put aluminum foil on the inside, because what happens is the sun's rays reflect off the aluminum foil. That's why she mentioned you want it to be tight or taut, so that way it makes a nice, smooth, very reflective surface. When it's a little bit wrinkly, you can see where it gets a little dark spots. You want it to be as shiny as possible, because then it reflects light down to your tasty treat down here, which could be s'mores, solar s'mores, or it could be grilled cheese or something like that. Quesadilla, yeah, even better. And the light will then reflect off of into here where this black area is. This black area absorbs thermal energy. We say it has a very high absorptivity. And the light that doesn't hit just this cardboard will reflect off of the reflective surfaces with the aluminum foil. As Jessica mentioned, you want to put newspaper or something on the inside walls behind the aluminum foil inside, because you want to hold all that energy. We're making an oven here, so we want to make sure all that heat stays inside. That's why she also put this little saran wrap plastic that you can find in your kitchen to hold all that heat in. Now, it's a windy day, so it's hard to really get this set up outside, at least here. But if it were a calm, sunny day, and which it could be where you're at, what you could then do is put this outside and aim it towards the sun. Because we live in the northern hemisphere, the sun is always to the south of us. So you want to take your box and aim it towards the sun in the south. And over time, because the sun moves from the east to the west throughout the day, you'll have to move your solar cooker in what we call azimuth direction to face it towards the sun to keep everything nice and toasty. So this is our little solar oven.
Our solar oven. Oh yeah, that was that. And then I was just thinking that when you're at home, you can look at some of your data. We have thermometers here that you could put in there to monitor the temperature. See how hot your oven really does get and how cooked your meals are. And we have, so you could always have s'mores. Yum. chocolate is the best part of a s'more. So this is something to kind of look into every 5 minutes, check the temperature. You can check the temperature of the surface or of the marshmallow inside and see what happens there. Just fun little experiments to do on your own. You could ask yourself, what was the highest temperature that your cooking surface reached? Did the temperature increase? How fast? How slow? And then just try your yummy snack and hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah. And so with that, I also want to show you what can actually happen here at the NSTTF and just how intense the sun can be. So with the solar tower that you see in the background, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Stop sharing for a second. Just show my video. All right. So just to show you how intense, you see this solar tower in the background. We also have a solar furnace right back here in the corner, if you can see that. That solar furnace has a spot. It puts a little beam of energy that's approximately 5 centimeters or a few inches in diameter. And you can burn something like this in a matter of 20 seconds, just to show you how intense. And this is basically turns these bricks into glass. That raw energy is what we need in order to do the energy research in solar. So it gets very exciting whenever we put things like this together. The other things we're working on here at the labs is also being able to use the power of the sun to also reduce global emissions by reforming methane, which is a greenhouse gas. Also, by being able to produce hydrogen and also calcination. 8% of global emissions comes from cement. And so we are able to use the sun to do those raw types of experiments and research in order to offset a lot of those carbon emissions to make cement. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just share my screen again and give a little tour, a little bit more about what we do here at the National Solar Thermal Test Facility. So if you could see my screen. All right. So these are our colleagues here at the National Solar Thermal Test Facility. As I mentioned, there are these mirrors that reflect light onto a tower where we heat up a fluid that ultimately turn a generator to make electricity. These mirror assemblies, as you see here, are called heliostats. Helio meaning the sun and stat meaning stationary because they rotate off of a stationary pedestal, as you see here. The backside of these mirrors, which are super reflective, you could see that there's a backing that is very strong. It's a little bit copperish. And that copperishness also helps it give it good structure so they can last for up to 30 years. And all that light reflects onto a tower. And you see a receiver here with falling particles like a curtain, which we absorb the thermal energy to produce power. So let's go ahead and go inside the tower, if you will. So now we are inside the solar tower where you see these big chains that move this giant 3-story building to the top of the tower. You can see the big chasm here because right now in this tour, the whole 3-story building is at the top of the tower. You can see all these various stages where our personnel work, and they all go to the top of the tower where we set up our experiments. So you can see that we have a lot of folks here that do work. We have, in addition to engineers and scientists, we have people that work in the vocations, such as plumbers, machinists, electricians, and all of them work together with us to get all the important work we've done in solar energy research. So we're going to go ahead and now take a little tour of the top of the solar tower. So we are now on the top of the solar tower where we can see the 218 heliostats that are reflected towards the top of the tower where we make electricity. You can see the control tower here where we set up our experiments on this test tower that we're on top of, where the test director, test engineers, and scientists all sit and see how their experiments are working up here. You can also see some of the other various laboratories we have up here, including these dish systems that we also use for modular types of solar energy. Now, if we look up around the top, you can see our other control room up here. And you can also see this big solar receiver, that fluidized particle receiver I was just talking to you all about. Another thing that I can also show you, we do research in what's called industrial process heat. I mentioned making hydrogen, also doing calcination for making cement. But sometimes we also do research on various materials. So I'm going to just play this little video in the background and narrate through it, if you will. So you can see our heliostats moving. I'm just going to move up just a little bit. I'm going to cancel that. So you can see how the heliostats move. You can see our calibration panel, and you can see our heliostats as they like set everything up. We also do chemistry experiments as well, where we do what's called infrared imaging, and we also heat up different processes and do things called pyrolysis. Could you tell us what pyrolysis is, Jessica?
Can you tell them?
Well, pyrolysis is where you heat something up and it burns. It's the chemistry research of how things burn. And so we're testing, sorry putting you on the spot, but we test various materials. Here you can see our various groups looking at the infrared imaging. And as soon as the beams hit the material, they catch on fire. And we're able to test these materials as if they're coming in on reentry. So in addition to solar energy research, we also do aerospace research, where the aerospace research, we can see how things might burn up in the atmosphere. If you ever watch those movies with space shuttles and like rockets as they come in on entry, we're able to understand those materials and how they degrade. Another area of research that we also do, I'll just share this real quick. All right, if I can move this ahead. Okay. It's not cooperating. There we go. So another thing we also do and set up are these trees. We instrument these trees to do testing of forest fires. So we can look at the temperatures. And then when the heat hits them, we could see what the front of a forest fire would do to a single tree. We use that in our models to actually see the progression of how forest fires can evolve. And we understand this at the very fundamental stage. So all that like work and all that stuff I learned growing up as a farmer, I get to actually see the science behind all of that in thermal fluid mechanics and even in combustion research with fires. So this is something that I think was pretty cool just to kind of show. And our whole solar tower, actually, you can use it year round. In fact, in the wintertime, the solar tower actually gets highest flux because it's so dry in the wintertime. We don't have a lot of humidity like in the summer when you get all those rains and everything. So we actually get even more intense flux. And the hottest temperatures that we ever do research on our solar tower is 2,500 Celsius. However, I'm about to show you that our temperatures can go even higher. Let's go over to our solar furnace now. We are now at the NSTTF solar furnace, where you see this giant dish that reflects light. Whoops, sorry about it going so fast. So you have a single heliostat that puts light through this attenuator. So when the flaps are open and closed, I'll show you a little video. That light reflects off of that heliostat through these flaps. And when the flaps rotate, open and close, it lets light through. And as soon as the light goes through, it reflects light through to this dish that reflects light onto this stage. And this stage is where we can, oh, can you not see my screen? Oh, interesting. Sorry about that. I did not know our screen share stopped sharing. Okay, can you see it? Okay, all right.
Not yet.
Okay, here we go. Can you see? Are we all good? Okay. So that light, I apologize. I thought you all saw it, but there we go. That light reflects off of this one heliostat through this attenuator. I'll show you that little video real quick that I was talking about. It reflects light through this attenuator where the flaps open and close. When those flaps are completely horizontal, it looks like what we call Venetian blind. That light passes through, but we can also dampen it. And we can actually do what's called flight profiles in aerospace, but we can also do it for solar energy research, where we can test that before we actually take it to the solar tower. The light reflects off the big dish where I'm up here setting up an experiment. and onto the stage where we have a solar reactor that can test temperatures of greater than 3,000 degrees Celsius. To give you an idea of how hot that is, the sun, the temperature of the surface of the sun, can get upwards of about 5,700 degrees Celsius. So we're not that far off, and yet we can control that heat here. So that gives you just a little bit of background on some of what we do here at the National Solar Thermal Test Facility. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and maybe we can see if there's any questions.
Any other questions? Because he answered those ones. How long did the solar tower take to build, Penny?
That's a good question. So in the late 1970s, there was this oil crisis. People were realizing that it was hard to get a hold of oil and gas. And because of that, we needed to find alternative energy sources. So the NSTTF, National Solar Thermal Test Facility, was built in the late 1970s, where we developed this whole place, and it took about 3 to 4 years to build and eventually commission. And that included the solar tower and the solar furnace, which we just saw. Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Do you make the solar ovens with groups of students?
Or take it for?
Oh, so yeah, we do work with various students. We actually have down here, it's hard to see, but we have a mobile solar oven. It's huge. It's like the back of a truck. It looks like the entire size of the back of a truck. And we actually make solar cookies. Another thing, actually, I'll show you another time real quick since we have a little bit of time. In fact, I love your question. I'm going to show you a little screen, a video where we've actually done another type of cooking. Okay, can you all see my screen? Not yet.
So here in New Mexico, green chili is a hot item. So
yeah,
he's going to show you something.
So this is a roaster. So not only can we actually like bake things, we can roast things.
Yummy.
So we take these green chili peppers, those ones I told you that I grew when I was growing up and still even now on weekends, and I can put them in here. These chilies are at 600 degrees Celsius. You'll notice, different than other types of roasting where you use propane or fossil fuels, there's no orange flames. They are white flames because they are solar flames. And so that's one of the cool little things about solar roasting. And we're looking to do coffee and other types as well. Global emissions actually are impacted by roasting and by other types of cooking type apparatus, because you're still burning fossil fuels.
All right. So we're looking at a couple of questions. Let's see. How long have you worked at Sandia? So we'll...
How about you go first?
Oh, okay. I've worked here for 12 years. So that's including my student internship, and yeah, I've been here my whole life in New Mexico.
And I've worked here about 14 years, including my internships back in the day. I came here also as a grad student, as a postdoc, and then as a staff member. So like Jessica, I've spent pretty much my whole career over here. Spent a little stint at NASA also on space shuttles, but that was fun.
Let's see. What Sandia serves? What are your shirts for?
So we like to serve our community. So we have what's called a program called Sandia Serves. As we do our community involvement and as we serve our community.
Yeah, so we get to do fun things like this.
Yeah, it's a lot of good times.
Outreach.
Yeah. What is the coolest material you have set on fire with the solar tower? I've set on fire a lot of cool things, but I would say in general, what we've set on fire here was the space shuttle nose cone. That we actually put on the top of the tower right after the Challenger accident, and actually got to see how it would potentially erupt if they had a bad situation on reentry. What we are about to actually heat up really soon, we are about to heat up things such as plane parts. And we're also going to heat up a new heat shield that's going to go on a deep space probe that's going to go get slingshot around the sun out into deep space. So what we're able to do is actually take the raw thermal energy. I mentioned we can get to like 3,000 degrees C. And this probe isn't going to get that close to the sun where it gets so hot, but it's going to get at a certain perigee, I think. Yeah, it's going to take a certain trajectory. There we go. That's going to be at where it's going to maintain a certain temperature, but it's still going to be hot. So we're about to test that heat shield on the solar tower later this summer. And we're going to be testing that up to 1900 degrees Celsius. So it'll be very interesting to see up there how that works. Otherwise, like fun things, the chili pepper roasting was probably one of the most fun. Yeah. Any other questions?
What were the other questions?
Let me count it down. Okay. What has been the most thermal resistant material you've tested? Well, we use insulation, which is called RSLE. So it's low expansion refractory type material. And that material is probably the most thermal resistant. I've put up to 2,600 degrees C on it, and it actually maintains its integrity very well. It doesn't ablate appreciably or pyrolysis or basically burn. It doesn't burn as easily. There you go. And so I'd say that's probably the most thermally resistant material we tested. And as far as chili pepper cook-offs, yeah, I think one of these days we should probably take one of our solar chili roasters to a competition, put some like ghost peppers or scorpion peppers to see who can win. Not just in terms of how you eat it, what's hot, but which ones could be actually temperature hot.
And then, is there a long wait list for people wanting to use the solar tower?
That's a great question. We are involved in so much, from deep space probes to aerospace for hypersonics and reentry vehicles. And of course, our main thing, solar energy research. So there is a bit of a list, but we always find time because there's so many important research topics and so many important problems to solve. I mentioned climate security and climate change. There's so many important problems, so we make time because there's a lot of important stuff. Right.
All right. I think that's it for questions.
If you're interested in getting into this type of research, what would you suggest reading? What do you think would be a good thing?
Into this type of research?
Or research in general. How about that? Because you've helped with some thermal fluids.
What's suggested reading?
Well, how about some magazines? There's plenty of magazines like Discover Magazine, watching PBS. And the most important thing, keep your imagination good. Watch a lot of sci-fi movies because you never know what's going to happen. I never knew I was going to test the deep space probe. So this is really cool. And so just always keep your dreams high, and you'll never know how high you could ever take them. What got you both into the specific field of research?
Well, so when I started as a student intern in chemistry, I started in my job. I've been there ever since, but we do a lot of bench top. So I'm in a lab. I'm not in this large, scale kind of environment, but I work in the lab. I do small experiments, mostly with clay, because we want to contain the nuclear waste. But just that got me into it, being a student, and then it continued to spark my interest, and I continued as a staff member, and the rest is, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I used to get in trouble for like burning things up as a kid, and I turned that into a job, and so far I love it. And it's find something you love every day to work on, and you'll never work another day in your life again. And so that's kind of how I've always kind of thought about it. Have you ever seen specific pop culture references to your work?
Well, we've done like beer.
That's right.
Project.
So we actually made a widget. Jessica and I collaborated with some colleagues where we wanted to put nitrogen in coffee, in beer, in all these other beverages, and to make them more efficient at nitrification of your beverage. And so that was pretty fun. I guess other pop reference culture. Well, CSP has been featured in different movies. If you watch the beginning of the new Blade Runner movie, you'll see the future with concentrating solar power. Well, I hope that the environment's better than Blade Runner at that time, but I'm hoping CSP is part of the energy there. I guess one of the songs we play sometimes whenever we're setting up, there is Drop It Like It's Hot, and because we are literally dropping particles like they're hot. So we have had that cultural reference. Do you get to blow things up in the lab? So things here, we do controlled tests where sometimes we want things to explode within a design chamber. So we do small types of explosions, such as chemical reactions. Those types of chemical reactions, we can actually facilitate types of mini explosions that produce hydrogen. Now, other ways that we blow things up, we don't really blow things up per se. We actually catch them on fire, and like the testing that you saw. All right. What is your favorite research project you have ever been a part of?
Let me think. Gosh, there's so many. Let's see. I can't think of anything.
Well,
go ahead. Let me think.
One of the ones I got to work on at Sandia was basically we were setting up a receiver at test, and that one we tested up to very high temperature. We were able to prove that it could work for actual power production in commercial power plants. That to me was one of the most exciting things. When I worked at NASA, I got to work on the space shuttle after the Columbia accident for making sure that we put these insulation materials so the next ones, like the Space Shuttle Discovery and Atlantis, didn't burn up. So we got to do these tests in what's called an arc jet test facility to see that they wouldn't burn up. What's neat is we get to use the tower as an arc jet. That's how we're able to do aerospace work as well. Were you able to think of any more?
Yeah, I was actually.
Perfect.
I think it's my main job. So as nuclear waste disposal research, I've been able to make or synthesize my own materials. I think that's really, it's been so exciting being able to kind of have the freedom to do what I want and test out my materials and see how they absorb radionuclides. Because again, if we put stuff down in the ground, we don't want those radionuclides getting out. So stuff like that. I love my job. It's fun. And
yeah, you never know what to expect every day. That's part of the interesting aspect of working here.
All right. I guess that's a wrap. Kenny?
All right. Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank
Appreciate you showing up. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.
All right.
Bye.
And enjoy all the scientific presentations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that energetic and fascinating presentation.